Season 2, Episode 2, the second month, second day, 2022 years in the year of our Lord. Here we are.
It's a lot of twos. That was a belch.
Yep.
Solid one.
I've had some things to consume, and my belly does not agree.
Yeah, and you're still looking at those 2 leftover slices of pizza with near lust in your eyes.
There's one of the biggest air bubbles. Bubble?
Yeah, it's a bubble.
The biggest air bubbles on that crust that I've ever seen in my life.
It's just brown and cheesy, too. He's really thinking about just tearing that air bubble off and eating it straight.
Well, my stomach is a little bit
angry. Well, I mean, let's see. You've got a monster. Let's go through the lineup of what's happening on your side of this table.
We do this every time.
We got a monster.
Yeah.
We have the Yankee Candle Moonshine.
One sip is all it takes.
It's all it takes for you to want to vomit. 100%.
But I'm so also like, oh, that's an idea.
Vomiting or just taking a sip of that? Right? I mean,
the flavor.
Okay.
Flavor.
I mean,
it's like I don't
rough.
hate it, but I also don't want another one.
I don't like it. It's too sweet. It needs to be mixed with something.
Let's do one for the people.
I did one already.
No, I want them to hear us.
Why? So they can hear us like gag?
Yeah, like I'm sipping tea. Here we go.
Oh.
I don't like it.
No, it's not good. It's not good at all. Nope. After that pizza.
Is it better? I bet after like the 6th one, it starts to taste better.
Everything tastes better after that because you don't have taste buds anymore.
So yeah, Monster Energy drink, a little bit of this Smith Creek Butter Cake Moonshine. Shout out Smith Creek if you'd like information on sponsoring. We might be the only podcast promoting you.
And if we do, please don't send us this horrible butter cake. Whatever
also,
other flavors you have would be great.
I'm not sure if I'm going to finish drinking this or drop a bunch of paraffin wax in this jar and just
light it on
fire.
Candle. So yeah, that's where we're starting this episode. Real quick too, had a lot of messages this last week. Apologies for episode 2 of season 2 being a week late. I had a family emergency last week, and that family emergency took all of my focus and energy for about a 3 or 4 day window. And at that point, it was too late to try to squeeze it in. So here we are. Hopefully, we won't have too many more situations that pop up that cause us to miss a week.
Oh, we're gonna make it up.
Well, we talked about maybe having Jason do an episode by himself, and we realized that would probably be bad for the brand. So
because I would sign some kind of like Pat McAfee contract within a week.
Is that how you think that would go?
Yeah, bro. Smith Creek Moonshine has nobody promoting them right now.
There's a reason.
Well,
because that stuff is awful.
It burns. That burp burned.
It's like you.
Oh, it's even worse.
This is going to be
this 2-month-old Christmas ale to wash it down. Nothing like nutmeg on top of moonshine.
Oh, on top of Marco's cheesy white pizza with added grilled chicken.
My body's a temple.
To junk food.
All right, we got a lot of juicy content, and it's sports related heavily, not super heavy card related today, this morning, whenever you're listening.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're going to talk about cards in relation to the other things we're talking about, but
I got to give you a shout out.
You should. I deserve it.
They say the only thing better than owning a boat is having friends who own a boat, and I would carry this over to the hobby by saying, the only thing better than buying slabs is having friends that will buy you slabs.
Yeah.
So if you're like me, self-absorbed, don't like to spend money on other people, find a friend that actually enjoys buying you things. And Gary, you did that.
I'm a giver.
I'm holding in my hand 1985 Don Russ Eric Davis rookie card graded by CSG, which I got to tell you, when you see the slab up close with the holographic thing going on with the logo, it's pretty.
I think the slab quality is probably the best on the market. It's crystal clear. When I saw it, obviously, if you've listened to the podcast, you know that Eric Davis was Jason's boyhood crush.
To this day.
And so I saw this pop up for auction, and not surprisingly, it had no bids because, I mean, it's a very niche. Eric Davis is a very niche collection.
Can you put a price on Eric Davis?
Yeah, the price after tax and shipping was $14.87.
but the value that it holds in my heart.
And that's all that matters. I knew you would like it, and what did I text you after I bought it? I sent you a picture of it. And I said everybody should have an Eric Davis rookie in a CSG slab.
Yeah.
So
What'd I say? Hell yeah.
yeah, absolutely. But yeah, if you've never held a CSG slab or seen one up close, the labels look terrible in pictures. They don't look amazing in hand, but they look a lot better than they do in pictures, and the slab itself is fantastic.
Yeah, I like it. Did these fit with displayable? Did
Yeah.
you try that? Yeah.
They're just a tiny bit bigger than a PSA slab, but the two displayables that I have, shout out Displayable, sponsor us. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your slabs, there's a company called Displayable. They make an acrylic slab holder that's like framed, and they make it for almost every different major company out there that makes slabs. They don't make it for like weird random companies like RCG or Gem Mint or any of those other places.
Which one did it not fit?
It does not fit an SGC. So the ones that my wife got me for Christmas were for PSA, and they will hold a PSA slab. They will hold a CSG slab. The SGC slab is too wide to fit in the opening, but the display looks really good.
It's
Currently, my two displays hold my Pop 1 Luka Panini Status Pristine 10
And a Kurt Rambis.
and a pink Trae Young CSG True Gem Status rookie. That's what's in there right now.
Oh, by the way, this is the Ball Card Show on the Press Play Podcast Network.
Yeah.
I'm Jason Otero.
I'm Gary LeMaster.
This is the Sports Podcast.
For the Sports Collector.
Hey, 6.5 minutes in. If you have no clue what's going on, you're not missing anything.
No, you heard us talk about alcohol and pizza and burping and Eric Davis and CSG.
I want to spend the next 30 seconds talking about the outfit you're wearing right now.
Rock away, man.
So, I don't know how many of you watched 8 Mile.
We'll drop a picture on social.
I can't remember if the guy's name was Rabbit or Squirrel, but it was a rodent / small mammal. Is it as a squirrel or rodent?
Rabbit was Eminem's character.
B Rabbit. Does that sound right?
Rabbit was Eminem's character.
Okay, so who was the guy with the scratchy voice that was also in Breaking Bad?
I've only seen the movie once.
Well, anyway, you look like him. So what I'm looking at right now, first off, the best part of this is Gary is wearing a 1998 Adidas skull beanie. Remember those ones that they barely cover your ears?
Yeah.
But that was the look, the streamlined look.
Yeah.
Now it looks like Peyton Manning's trying to wear a condom on his head.
Yeah, he came up with that on the fly, and it was really good.
I'm so proud of myself.
That was solid.
Oh, I almost said something else way worse. By the way, that's like a taupe, beige, gray.
It's gray.
Heather.
It's
Heather.
Gray
It's
on
Heather.
gray.
That's a
Got
Heather.
the Adidas logo.
Yeah. Old school.
The Climb a Warm tag on
But
the
let's
back.
work our way down. The next thing I'm seeing is a SpongeBob hoodie.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. With several different SpongeBob characters, sweats, and then, joggers, which is also a style you should avoid.
These are some Under Armour joggers. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, nothing should taper on your body.
I disagree. My legs
no.
are hot. Look at those calf muscles.
Hold on.
What are you talking about? Look at that. Look at those.
Those legs look very geriatric. Let's go down. We got some kind of socks going on. I'll give you respect on that.
These are Arnold. These are Hey Arnold
Hey
socks.
Arnold socks. You're way too old for that.
Yep.
And then we have some bright yellow
Jordan Proto Maxes.
Proto Maxes that match
my
SpongeBob.
sweatshirt. Yeah.
So
It's a solid outfit.
that pizza, man, I just can't. I'm sorry. For those of you that don't like burps, it's going to be a long episode.
There was another one. He just kept that one silent.
I have something I do with burps that the next time I have one, I'm going to let the audience and you experience it.
Okay.
It's one of my favorite things to do. It drives my wife crazy. Let's talk sports because I'm an emotional disaster. I want to jump into my thing first, but it's not the biggest news. Let's go ahead and talk about the biggest news in football this week, which isn't the Super Bowl. It actually isn't. It was
Right.
until this week when, as you know, if you're listening and care about sports at all, it's announced that Tom Brady's retiring, and then somebody says, no, he's not, and then he just randomly on Instagram is like, screw you reporters. Nobody gets to tell them. I'm telling them.
Right.
Tom Brady's done.
Yeah. Tom Brady retired.
I don't believe it, even after hearing it and seeing
Yeah,
him
I
say,
do. He's done. You could tell coming into the end of the season as everybody on that team started to get hurt. you could see in his eyes, he was like, yeah, we're not getting out of here this year.
Which, by the way, his performance in his last game was still, he didn't go noodle arm. Like,
well, no, he
still
takes too
making
good a care of his
plays,
body to
still
go noodle arm.
Yeah, exactly. So does he get to do like us and just crush buttercake moonshine and monster Christmas ale and pizza?
Well, he could, but he won't. He's going to still build the TB12 brand, which is all built around like his.
When does he get to market pliability? Because that's where he's going to make his money, is off of his buddy.
Pliability?
The fitness routine that
talking about plyometrics?
No. You need to watch Man in the Arena.
I have watched a few episodes of it, but then I started
the guy
watching
that was his trainer that Belichick
Ted
did
Lasso.
not want. No, it was not Ted Lasso.
No, but I started watching that and it took over for.
But
Man
he
in the
started
Arena.
doing this like hippie stuff that Willie McGinnis taught him, and it was all about pliability, like how flexible your body is,
Okay.
and how that has longevity. And then that's why I got him in trouble later with the Patriots because he was trying to get
Oh,
Gronk
yeah,
and
yeah.
everybody else. in
Well,
on
the
it.
good news for me is that I'll never know what that's like.
No, bro, you can't touch your toes. You haven't touched your toes in years.
No, I was actually had a conversation with somebody the other day. They were talking about being at the gym and doing squats. And I've been getting back in the gym since the beginning of the year and been lifting again. I physically can't do a squat. Not from the lower
You
body
can't
standpoint.
do it right now.
Well, I can do the squat, but when there's weight on my back, my arms are not flexible. I can't get
Can I
my
see an
hands
air
to
squat?
the bar. Yeah,
I'm
I'll show you.
serious. Yes.
Yeah, I'll show you an air squat.
Yeah, I want to see one. I just heard 10 bones pop with you getting out of the chair. Flare your knees out. I want deep squat. Oh, you're. Hey, guys, I'm not lying when
That's
I tell
what I
you
got.
His torso just tilted forward, and he only bent his knees about 3 inches, and he looked at me like, how was that?
That's it. Yeah.
Is that good?
Yeah.
So that's not a squat.
No, I know, but my knees are too bad to go any further than that.
I know
I
that's
won't
actually
get back
true.
up. Yeah, I've had 7 knee surgeries. They both need replaced. But the bigger issue is when I put the bar on the back of my shoulders, I can't get my hands to the bar.
Mm-hmm.
I can't get there. So I use a leg press machine.
Well, the reason for that is your shoulder muscles are screwed from working on garage doors
Yeah.
because you can't get into a front rack position.
What was the reason I couldn't do it before?
Your reason for that is your sodium intake is way too high.
When I was still playing football into my late 20s, I couldn't do it.
So, anyway, Barack Obama. That's what
I don't like that.
that wasn't. It's not an insult.
No, I didn't say it was. I just didn't like it.
I can do better.
Made me uncomfortable.
This episode is completely off the rails.
So, which means everybody's going to love it.
Barack Obama. That was a better one.
Yeah, last week's
Obama.
episode 1 of this season was also off the rails, and we got crazy good feedback. So,
All right, so you can't do a squat. Tom Brady retires. I have no problem admitting I hated him and enjoyed hating him. And then whenever he won the Super Bowl against the Falcons, I realized I was watching the greatest quarterback of all time.
yeah, my wife is one of the most caring, empathetic, loving people I've ever met in my life. She would strangle Tom Brady in his sleep.
He is her Celine Dion.
Yeah, I would beat Celine Dion with a baseball bat until she was hamburger, and I wouldn't feel bad about it.
It's just really aggressive, and
That's how I feel, though.
If the network cancels us over that, I'm gonna be so bummed
If that's what the network cancels us over,
because we have so much more to give. Give us the rest of the season, and we will give you so many more legitimate reasons.
to cancel us than me wanting to destroy Celine Dion's face.
But essentially, like, I don't know even what to make of it. I know, like, there's going to be all this hype around the hobby, but it's still like I really do think he's the GOAT. I think
I don't know how
statistically you can't argue against it. When you look at the insurmountable odds, how clutch he was, and then you have this underdog factor where it's like nobody knew what to make of him when he was drafted. He steps into this role, the demise of everybody when they expect Drew Bledsoe to hop back in, and then just the run he went on.
I think what's even more impressive about it, all those things are true, but to me what makes him the GOAT more than any of those things is the longevity.
Yeah.
He had not just, like, you look at a lot of Hall of Fame quarterbacks, and they have the beginning of their career where they're turning into something,
Mm-hmm.
and then they have about a 4-year window, maybe a 5-year window where you're like, holy crap, this dude's a monster.
Yep.
And then they have a 5 or 6 year window where they start to decline, and then they retire. It's
Yep.
a 12, 13-year career. And that's
because you're getting hit by 300-pound men.
And that's the career arc of 99% of quarterbacks.
Yep.
Tom Brady started his career as a backup. His second year, he was a good player that had an amazing defense and won a Super Bowl. And then from that point on, for 20 straight years, he was a top 3 quarterback in the NFL.
Yep.
There were years where he was not number 1, a lot of them. But for a 20-year window, he was a top 3 quarterback in the NFL every single year.
Yeah.
Like, that's mind-boggling when you stop and think about what you just said. Like, it's the most violent sport that you can play for a sustained period of time. Yeah. Like MMA is more violent, boxing is more violent, but it's 3-minute rounds for 4 or 5 rounds. Yeah. It's not 60 minutes of 25-mile-an-hour car wrecks, which is what you're dealing with in football.
So the best way I can compare it is I try to look at like what other Hall of Fame quarterbacks are in his vicinity. And so you look at Peyton, who started 2 years before him. You could argue 3 with like playtime.
I would argue Peyton was a better regular season quarterback.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is the deterioration
of
his body. So he was still in there when his arm was gone.
Completely, right? To the point where they benched him halfway through the year, and then they started him in the Super Bowl because why are you going to start Brock Osweiler in the Super Bowl? But
you could watch like the way that Peyton would move around in the pocket, the way he always did that weird high knee thing with his ugly Reebok cleats, but he just loses that mobility. The one that I would say that started a little bit after him, that's a long career Hall of Fame quarterback, in my opinion, is Big Ben. And his body just completely fell apart.
Well, and I think there's something to be said. I actually was listening to, if you guys want a really good follow on Twitter and on TikTok, Jordan Palmer is a great follow if you're a football fan of the X's and O's and understanding quarterback play. And he was actually talking about that. He was talking about Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers and Ben Roethlisberger. And what's the difference between those 3 guys? Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers very obviously take immaculate care of their bodies.
Yep.
Their sleep is dialed in. Their diet is on point. They work out every single. Ben Roethlisberger,
and very cerebral.
Yes.
Approach to life.
Yes. And Ben Roethlisberger, hell of a quarterback. 2 Super Bowls, in the top 5 or 6 all time in passing yards. Yeah. I agree. He's a Hall of Fame quarterback, but his body was never something he took that serious. And almost every year of his career, he just got fatter and fatter and fatter to the point where he's playing at 260, 270 pounds at 6'4". That's my size. Right? Like, I'm 6 foot. I'm 6 foot.
I feel like somehow you've been like, Big Ben, Aaron, Tom.
No, that's
me.
That's not what I was saying.
But the listeners out there are tracking it just a little bit.
Yeah. Right. So, I mean, I'm 6'4". I weigh 270 pounds. Tom Brady and I are the same age. My physical peak was 20 years ago, probably 24 years ago.
17 singing Southern gospel music?
No, more like 23, 24.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, like, I didn't take care of myself. I mean, I did what I had to do. I lifted, I did conditioned, but at the end of the day, it wasn't something where on a daily basis, my focus was on making my body the very best it could be.
Right.
And that's the difference between those guys. There's a reason that the last 3 or 4 years, Ben Roethlisberger has been held together by duct tape and duck fat, right? And Tom Brady's out there just slinging it.
Benjamin Button.
Yeah. You look at pictures of Tom Brady at 44 right now. He looks
draft day.
He looks younger now than he did at 23.
Yeah. Yeah.
He just does.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers doesn't because he grows his hair out and he's gray.
So let's talk hobby. Tom Brady, hobby. Hey, spoiler alert.
Thank you for not doing your bird thing.
Tom Brady's cards are still valuable. They're going to, over the long period of time, do that. Here's the thing about people talking about flipping cards on retirement. There was like a peak in volatility a year and a half ago where any news was treated like a penny stock and cards were getting flipped at a ridiculous rate. When I had some graded Kobe rookies come back and his Hall of Fame, like, what am I trying to say? What's the word?
His induction?
Induction. That's it. His Hall of Fame induction did nothing. I realized that the volatility had shifted a little bit.
A little bit, but one thing that I would tell people when they're talking about Tom Brady versus Kobe. Here's the one thing that I think might be a little bit different. And I agree with you that the instant volatility has changed a lot, especially on base cards. It's much harder to get into the NFL Hall of Fame than to get into the NBA Hall of Fame. The NBA Hall of Fame, if you played 10 or 12 years and made a couple of all-star teams and were good in college, you're in. Like, it's pretty straightforward. If that's you in the NFL, you made like 1 or 2 Pro Bowls and you were good in college, you won't sniff the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Like, you just won't sniff it. There are guys in the NBA Hall of Fame that you go, what?
Mm-hmm.
You don't do that with the NFL.
And so the other thing with Kobe, and this is going to be me sounding really selfish, but it was business, okay? Just from a business standpoint, not a personal thing. Obviously, the tragedy of losing Kobe Bryant, one of the greatest competitors in all sports of all times, shooting a free throw and after blowing out your Achilles. I mean, the stories go on and on and on, right? Just who he was as a competitor is incredible. But I remember at the Hall of Fame speech thinking, you have to let Jordan give more of a speech than he just did, because if his wife gets to talk that much and Jordan doesn't, his card's not going to be impacted that much, which is kind of what happened. So that was the first time I saw press not have much of an impact on it. Tom Brady's cards right now, here's your issue. If you're flipping, what's your entry level?
Well, no, that's the thing. Like, your only real options if you're wanting to try to flip Tom Brady stuff short term is to see if you can find raw stuff in decent condition, but that's tough. And the higher end Brady rookies like Contenders, Bowman Chrome, those are cards that are really heavily like forged. They're really heavily like reprinted, and like PSA won't even grade Contenders rookies anymore. BGS is unbelievably strict on them, and that is a card set that was notorious for being miscut from the factory. So I know a couple of people who literally pulled Brady Contender rookies themselves, and in the last couple of years have sent them in to be graded, and they've been sent back as non-authentic. They know for a fact they're authentic. They pulled them out of the pack themselves, but PSA just has too much liability on their hands if they do it wrong, so they don't even grade them anymore.
So I like this. Let's talk about some Brady rookies that are accessible. So I bought a large collection. It's been a year now.
Yep.
And they were loaded with a lot of cool stuff. I went through, about 500,000 cards.
Yeah.
It took me a long time. I bought the collection a little bit at a time. I'd bring home a carload of boxes. I'd go through it and make an offer. They were expecting to sell these boxes at team lot prices. I was ecstatic at what I was getting them for. I did well, but it wasn't like there was no
MJ rookies or LeBron rookies.
But I did well. So I pulled 3 different Brady rookies, 4 out of that box.
Yep.
One of them you ended up with, I think you sold.
Yep, I did.
The numbered one.
Yes.
Which I regret.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a Michigan uni. You probably regret it too.
I don't, because at very best it was going to get a 7.
Yeah.
It had 3 soft corners.
But it's still a Brady rookie.
It's still
to
a number
250.
Brady. No, it was to 2,000.
Oh, well, never mind.
Yeah, it was
Screw
numbered
that.
to 2,000.
Nobody's going to remember that guy.
Yeah.
Anyway, that one, the coolest card I pulled out was the metal Precious Gems.
The Fleer, yeah.
Yeah, and I sold that and regret that one.
Yeah. I actually brokered that deal for you.
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
That was one of the poker games.
Well, it never actually it never filled, but a guy who wanted to get in there wanted to buy it, so I brokered the deal for you.
I sold it right before
Never
the
got a
Super Bowl.
commission on that.
No, you didn't. You got commission on a few though. What was the other one? The Duo. Which?
With Giovanni Carmazzi, that's
yeah.
just the Fleer Traditions.
Fleer Traditions. So that's a more accessible one, and then the one that I still hung on to that's graded is the Score.
The Upper Deck Victory.
Is that one I have?
Yep, that's the one you have.
Oh, I thought it was
That's
Score.
nope. So the in order of accessibility, if you want to get a Brady rookie raw for under $500, Upper Deck Victory, the Fleer Traditions. You can get any of the Pacific. Some of you old heads are going to know what I'm talking about. Pacific used to make cards, so you can get like Pacific Paramount, Crown Royal.
Which
some
one's
of those.
the die cut? Is that the Crown
That's
Royal?
Crown Royal, yeah. You can get all those raw for under $500. if you get very lucky and you don't care necessarily about grading condition, trying to get a 8 or above, if you're willing to get something that's a 6 or a 7, you can get a few other things for in that $200 to $300 range. But the reality of it is there aren't any $100, $150 Brady rookies that are worth buying condition wise.
Here's a unique thing this year that I think will not exist next year at this time. People that were playing the volatility game were hoping for another 1 or 2 Super Bowls from Brady. They took a strong position on some of these low-end rookie cards, thinking that, I'll 5X these, no problem. Volatility has died down a little bit. He's retired. I'm sure there's a bump in the market right now, but I haven't seen anything massive. Have you?
No. I mean, the market's been pretty consistent, and part of it is the time of year we're in. You will see a bump here in the next month or two as people's tax returns start to come back. But the reality of it is we're back to a level of volatility that existed prior to COVID.
Yeah. So with that, I'm saying if you haven't picked up and you don't own yet that Brady rookie, there's probably a window over the next month where you'll get a reasonable price. My opinion is there's nothing that will make Brady's rookie cards go down apart from the entire economy collapsing, which is possible.
Sure.
But as far as the hobby goes, I think that hold on to the GOATs. If I could get any Jordan rookie, I'd hang on to it, right?
If you're buying Brady rookies right now thinking I'm going to flip them, you're doing it wrong.
No.
It's a 10-year hold.
PC, the greatest quarterback of all time.
Yeah.
Just hang on to it. So enough of Tom Brady. I've got something to get off my chest.
I'm so excited for this because you guys usually get to hear me go on a rant. You're going to hear Jason rant now, and I'm just going to sit back and enjoy it.
Here's the thing that surprised me before I even jump in. Have you ever, remember when your parents would say, I'm not mad, I'm disappointed? And that was way worse than
it wasn't
just
worse
being
for me
mad.
because I didn't care. I didn't want to get my ass beat was what I didn't want.
Well, that was neither here nor there for me. The disappointment was harder. And what's going on with the Miami Dolphins, Flores, the leadership of the Dolphins organization, the NFL, discrimination, accusations of Flores being offered cash bonuses to tank the 2019 season so that we could guarantee our draft spot. I'm sick to my stomach, and it's not just the pizza and the butter cake. It's the fact that I have had nothing but disappointment my entire life as a Dolphins fan. Nothing but disappointment my entire freaking life as a Dolphins fan. I was born in 1985, so I don't remember anything amazing happening. I heard about this awesome quarterback. I got to watch him lose with an amazing arm my whole childhood. Then we get excited about whoever's coming in, right?
Jay Fiedler, baby.
Jay Fiedler, Ricky Williams, Jason Taylor, Zach Thomas, Cameron Wake. All the pieces are here, but nothing ever happens in Miami because it's an entertainment town and not a sports town. You know how I know? The heaviest, most dense Latin culture with no, baseball, terrible. Football, terrible. Basketball, not consistently good. Soccer, is there a soccer team? I don't even know. There should be, and it should be dominant in the city of Miami, but it's not. And I have been living in the Midwest as a Miami Dolphins fan my entire life, and all they do is disappoint. And all I get to do is point to something that happened 12 years before I was born, 13 years before I was born, and hope that nobody else gets to experience something I didn't get to experience.
I'm sorry.
And then we have complete tools like Stephen Ross who are above the law that nobody can actually defeat because who is going to beat 30 billionaires in an accusation of discrimination?
Well, hopefully Brian Flores.
You're not going to win legally against 30 billionaires.
No, you won't win against 30 billionaires, but hopefully he shines enough of a light on things that it makes a little bit of a difference.
2 winning seasons with a horrible team.
Yeah, I mean, you had Tua.
2 winning seasons with a team that just had bits and pieces.
Yeah, he's a heck of a coach.
And now he's got to go because Tua is the future.
And because he refused to throw games.
Is this a hobby for the owners?
For some of them, yeah.
I think in Miami, Stephen Ross has a hobby, and it's called owning a football team.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I am tired. It's not even about winning. It's about not having a jerk running everything.
Yep.
And I don't know where I go from here, but I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this right now. I never thought these words would ever come out of my mouth. 36 years of cheering on the Miami Dolphins. 36 years of mostly losing. 36 years of hoping we get to split a series with the Patriots and call that a win. 36 years of finding one other fan in Indiana or Ohio that will cheer with me besides my family. The last 10 years in Columbus trying to find fan clubs and sports bars and places that would air the game. Only to be disappointed. Only to be disappointed. And the moment you seem to gain momentum and have somebody that knows what they're doing with X's and O's, you get a couple years of momentum, and then it's just a freaking game again. I'm tired of it.
I don't blame you. There's plenty of room on this Bengals bandwagon.
Well, and here's the thing with Bengals bandwagon. Had the Bengals lost this year, had the Bengals never drafted Joe Burrow, what are we saying? Well, the owner's a tightwad. There's no indoor facility in Cincinnati.
All those things
They're
are
out
still
here in
true.
the blizzard. They stuck with Marvin Lewis way longer than they should. I'm just overwhelmed, and I literally told my wife this. I am sad about the Dolphins. I am sad about how invested I've been in this program. I am sad about how excited I've been for a 500 season my entire life, and it's an option. And I don't know how much longer I can choose to be okay with it.
Well, here's what I will tell you. If I can give you anything resembling hope, and as the flip side of what you're saying, I've been a Bengals fan. As bad as the Dolphins have been most of your life, the Bengals have been worse. The Bengals have been worse. Here's when the Bengals won their first playoff game this year against the Raiders. I'm so conditioned to just feeling pain and suffering as a Bengals fan that going into that game, even though we were a clearly superior team to the Raiders, I expected to lose. And when we won the game, I was so excited that I Tiger Woods fist pumped and punched myself in the face really hard. My wife laughed at me and didn't even feel bad about it. Then we go to the second game of the playoffs, and I go into that game thinking, yeah, we're probably going to lose this one, but hey, we won a playoff game, and that hasn't happened since I was 13 years old. That was a long time ago. A long time, over 30 years ago. We won the second game, flabbergasted. It can't get better than this. Watched the Chiefs and the Bills play, and while part of me wanted to see Josh Allen and the Bills win that game, the other part of me was like, the Bills will stomp a mud hole in our ass. Like, I don't want to play them, especially in Buffalo in freezing cold weather. So the Chiefs win, and I'm like, well, we're probably not going to win, but we did beat them once. I started to feel a little bit of hope. And then what happened? The first quarter and a half, we're down 21-3, and I instantly flipped to, there we go. This is what I grew up with. There it is. And then something magical happened. Joe Burrow got pissed off and put that team on his back. And somehow we made the biggest comeback in AFC Championship game history, and we're going to the Super Bowl. I suffered through, we were actually talking about this the other day. I suffered through a string of quarterbacks after Boomer Esiason left and went to the Jets that included David Klingler and Akili Smith and John Kitna. We had a little window with Carson Palmer where we're like, man, we got one right. And then we get to the playoffs and Kimo von Oelhoffen blows out Carson Palmer's knee. He's never the same again. We get Andy Dalton and Marvin Lewis, And I watched Andy Dalton play in college and thought it was a good pick. And Andy Dalton, I will go to my grave saying, was a much better NFL quarterback than anybody ever gave him credit for. But his best season, where if he hadn't gotten hurt in week 13 and broke his thumb, he probably wins the MVP.
Yeah.
We get into the playoffs with A.J. freaking McCarron, and we're beating the Steelers until Vontaze Burfict goes Vontaze Burfict. And we lose. And that summed up 13 years of Marvin Lewis. Then we hire Zach Taylor. And every Bengals fan was like, who? Who is this guy? What? And then he comes in, and we're terrible. Offensive line, terrible. Andy Dalton, way past his prime, terrible. Joe Mixon, terrible. Best receiver, A.J. Green, can't be healthy. Terrible. But we got a draft pick right. And it boils down in the NFL to this. If you have a quarterback, you have a chance. And we have one. I've been telling you guys, talking about pop and drop all year last year. Joe Burrow is the real deal. Buy his stuff. Don't go buy Justin Herbert stuff. Go buy Joe Burrow stuff. If you listen to me, you're pretty happy right now. And if you didn't, you're kicking yourself right now.
Don't be too disappointed with your Herbert stuff, but it's no Joe Burrow.
Well, no. But the difference is Herbert stuff has stayed steady, maybe gone up 8 or 9%. Joe Burrow's tripled, which in this market, that's a big move. That's a big move. Let's put it this way, his Chronicles base rookies, like his Gridiron Kings and his Panini and his Classics, are selling for $10 a piece, raw. If you opened a lot of Chronicles, you've probably got 150 of those things. You're sitting on $1,500. Sell it all because it's Chronicles, and use that $1,500 and buy a real one. So I say all that to say, as also a long-suffering fan, there's potentially hope. But you're welcome on the Bengals bandwagon if you don't want to deal with the Dolphins. Because we have a terrible owner too, but our quarterback is even overcoming him.
So I'm not done being upset. I'm going to say one more thing.
Fire away.
Because I was thinking about this week, and I'm like so frustrated I'm not even getting my words out right. Like, that's how frustrated
I understand.
You know how when you start to say something, you just let it out, and then the anger builds? Like, this is genuinely happening right now.
Yeah.
You want to know what the most exciting moment of my lifetime as a Dolphins fan was? David Tyree catching a damn ball on his helmet in a game with the Dolphins weren't playing.
So that the undefeated
That is
team,
the biggest celebration I've ever had for the Miami Dolphins in my damn lifetime.
Yeah. And you weren't even around for their undefeated season.
No, wasn't even a thought.
Yeah.
It's just all setting in now. And to have an owner that doesn't even care, to have the common sense that we should maybe try to win. We're terrible already. We're going to have a good draft pick, and we're going to pass up on Herbert when we pay $100,000 to lose games and pick up Tua.
Yeah.
That's the game plan. And a coach that's like, I'd prefer to try to win so you can keep your $100,000 is let go because Tua is the future of this franchise. I tell you what, if half of what Flores is saying, his experience in Miami has been, is true, I cannot support this team until there's new ownership in Miami.
Well, here's the thing about
I never
that.
thought I'd say. I've been a diehard loyalist.
I know you have.
To all my teams. I'm a Reds fan. It's not like I get to watch a lot of great stuff happen there.
No.
I've had in my lifetime a World Series, in my childhood watching the Reds be dominant. That was cool. Aside from that and the Buckeyes,
Yeah. We're always dominant.
I'm worn out.
Yeah. I don't. The thing that's crazy about what you're saying with Flores is this. And I think anybody who understands the way the NFL works understands this. The fact that he filed this lawsuit means that he knows he'll never coach in the NFL again because he won't. The act of filing this lawsuit says, I know I'm never going to get a job in the NFL again. For a guy who has been involved in football at the highest level his entire life, played in the NFL, his coaching career started in the NFL. for a guy to do that means that he, at the very least, he believes that everything he said in this lawsuit is 100% true. More importantly, his lawyers believe that he has enough evidence on hand to back
accuse
it up
a billionaire
in a court of law.
Yeah.
So it's a lot like Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick absolutely got blackballed by the NFL, and so will Brian Flores. Colin Kaepernick hasn't thrown a football in an NFL football game in 4 years now? Mm-hmm. He could walk off the street and he's better than 25% of the backup quarterbacks in this league, maybe 30% of the backup quarterbacks in this league. Doesn't have a job, and he'll never have a job in the NFL.
Right.
Neither will Brian Flores.
Yeah.
Which is too bad because Brian Flores was a hell of a coach.
Yeah.
And he'll make somebody a really great college coach.
Well, one of the interesting dynamics with this, and I was listening on a couple different podcasts about this today, is so where does the blame lie? So everybody points at Roger Goodell, and you know, there's plenty to be frustrated about with the league. He's always going to be the guy that people boo, you know, are frustrated with and all that. But at the end of the day, what we're talking about is the shady-ass politics that are happening amongst the owners. The conversations that are happening. Did Belichick really know something that he had no business knowing? Did he really accidentally tell one of his former coaches and friends, oh, hey, this other guy's got it, blah, oh, my bad, I didn't realize? Or is that his way of saying, hey, if you want to expose this thing, here's your smoking gun?
Yeah. I would.
When has Bill Belichick not calculated?
Well, that's what I was going to say. I would agree with you that Bill Belichick doesn't do anything without thinking about it first. So that leads me to believe that there is some credence to what you're saying there.
Can you give backstory on that whole Belichick?
Oh, yeah.
So,
So, yeah, if you haven't been caught up on this lawsuit, evidently Brian Flores had an interview scheduled with the Giants on like a Thursday. Well, Belichick texted him on Tuesday. It was 2 days before the interview, and said, hey, congratulations. I've heard from multiple people within the Giants that you're their guy. Great job. And Flores responded with, well, that's weird because I'm not even scheduled to interview for 2 more days. Are you sure you didn't mean to send this to Coach Daboll? Because they're both Brian. And Belichick responded with, hey, man, I'm really sorry. You're right. I screwed that up. I really effed that up. My bad. It is Brian Daboll. So the Giants had already offered the job to Brian Daboll, but they were still going to interview Flores to fulfill the requirements of the Rooney Rule. And it was a complete sham.
To the people in the hobby, explain the Rooney Rule.
So the Rooney Rule, if you don't know what it is, the NFL put into place a rule to try to help promote diversity. So anytime a head coach position comes up or a coordinator position comes open, they have to at least interview 2 minority candidates. I think the spirit and the intent of the law, of the rule, is a good one, but in practice, what it tends to lead to is things like this, where these guys are never actually being considered. They've already decided who they're going to hire. And there's a lot of validity to this idea that the NFL is built, and all the profits are built on the back of colored people. They are. Like 70% of the league is black.
People of color is a better way of saying that. Is what you meant to say.
I mean, not necessarily, because there aren't too many non-black people of color in the league. There's a couple, but
that's just like an antiquated phrase.
Okay,
I know what you mean.
Yeah, I like to try to be politically correct, but I also think sometimes we take it a little too far. It's okay though. But long story short, people of color, 70% of the league is players, and without players, there's no profits. So owners are raking in billions of dollars on their backs, but when it comes time to put people in charge in your organization, it's 90%, 95% white people.
Yep. There's a problem.
There's an issue there. And
especially if the NFL wants to, and maybe they don't, because just because you played does not mean you're coach. I'm not saying that for a second. But when you look at the percentage of players that are people of color that have a desire to be coaches, and they're constantly getting passed up, it makes you scratch your head just a little bit at the very least. It doesn't seem to – the math is not consistent if the NFL wants to hire players to be coaches. And maybe that's – you would probably be able to speak more to that than I am, but that's concerning for me.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, there's a lot of dynamics that come into play. You've got a league with 32 teams, and 30 of those teams are owned by old rich white men. 29. Two of those teams, no, I was right the first time. One of those teams is owned by a rich old Middle Eastern man, Shad Khan, and that's Jacksonville. And one of them is owned by a rich old white woman. Okay? Now, there are very few, in my experience, there's no scientific evidence for this. This is anecdotal, but I feel strongly that I'm right. There are
shocked to hear you
very
say that.
few rich old white men that I know who spend a lot of time with people of color.
Mm-hmm.
There are very few rich old white people that I know who are comfortable being around people of color.
Mm-hmm.
So is it surprising to me that they're not putting people in charge of their organizations that are people of color? No. Do I have any answers on how you fix that? Also, no.
Until it costs these rich old white people money, I don't know how that would change.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, but
how else do you create the pain? Because the legal route, a settlement is nothing. A settlement is a fart in the wind of these people.
oh, for sure. I think the answer isn't about making them feel pain. I think but one of the things that Flores talks about in his lawsuit, remedies that they're looking for. I think that instead of saying here's a punishment if you don't do this, because here, listen, this is something that's also really important to understand. Sports should be a meritocracy. Okay? It should be that the best, most qualified person for the job, regardless of age, color, sex, gets the job. Okay? So it should be a meritocracy. So when you start punishing people for not doing X, Y, or Z, what'll end up happening is you'll start hiring people who may not be as qualified as somebody else just to fulfill whatever quota. And so you end up with an inverse problem to what we have now. I think that what you need to do is incentivize teams to give more of a fair shake to applicants of color. And I don't even necessarily think that starts with head coaches. Because what's the pipeline to head coach?
Yep.
Coordinator to head coach.
Yep.
Very rarely does somebody go from a position coach to a head coach.
You're running coffee. You're sleeping in your office.
Yeah. The last guy who was a position coach that became a head coach was Mike Tomlin. Mm-hmm. Coincidentally, person of color. Mm-hmm. Second longest tenured coach in the NFL. Hired by the team who's owned by the Rooney family, who the Rooney Rule is named after. Mm-hmm. But I think you incentivize teams to bring more people of color into roles like coordinators. And on the offensive side of the ball, what is the position coach that most often becomes a coordinator? Quarterback's coach. Mm-hmm. I think there's maybe one quarterback's coach in the NFL that's a person of color. Mm-hmm. When you have guys like Byron Leftwich and Eric Bieniemy who aren't even getting offers or interview rounds, mm-hmm. and guys like Zach Taylor, who's my team's coach, getting head coaching jobs,
mm-hmm. Young guys,
there's a problem.
Yeah, look at the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Now,
so you can't say this is the road to the head coach at an elite level. No, it's not.
Right.
Not for these two guys.
Right. And the flip side of that is, so I'm still not sure that Zach Taylor is a great coach. We just have a quarterback that's the real deal.
He's not bad.
He's not bad, but he's not Sean McVay.
Mm-hmm.
Sean McVay is a different animal.
He's got a few weapons too.
Well, not only that, but I mean, he's one of the smartest dudes I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like, it's ridiculous. I can't think of anybody else in the NFL who deserves a head coaching job over Sean McVay.
Well, but let's back up just a second. Even Brian Flores, we're saying, Leftwich getting offered this, so-and-so getting offered that. Flores was watching these opportunities that he is more than qualified. Whenever Miami announced Flores is out,
we all thought he'll be hired
in a week,
yeah.
max. And that wasn't just us. That was
it's everybody.
People that know way more than us.
Yeah.
Ian Rappaport, whose job is to know what's going on before everybody else. Everybody's like, oh, this, boom, Bears hired. Everybody hired. And then he's sitting here, and Flores is doing the math. He's like, my options that I have left are Houston and New Orleans right now.
Yeah. And
I cannot imagine, based off what you said about Kaepernick, I cannot imagine a world where Flores ever coaches in the NFL.
He won't. He'll go to college job, and he'll be really good. And
what would really, I just thought of.
What's that?
The ultimate salt in the wound is if he goes up to Michigan.
Oh, yeah. Well, did Harbaugh take the Minnesota job today?
Apparently he walked out with a box of his own belongings and had a final interview that was pretty much a foregone conclusion in Minnesota, but he didn't say goodbye to anybody, which is the most. Harbaugh is a 12-year-old kid going through puberty with a cracked voice and emotions all over the place.
He's the weirdest dude ever, and it's super strange because his brother is like super normal dude. Like, Harbaugh is just a different bird, man.
I just wish he would establish what base he's on as he starts in Minnesota. Are we on first base, second base, third base?
I don't know if Kirk Cousins wants to be violated, so.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the Buckeyes.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I got you. Yeah, no. So, I mean, that's pretty deep into some like social fabric stuff. We don't normally dive too deep into that stuff, but it's pretty relevant right now. Talking about the Super Bowl in general, are you ready to go there, or do you still want to talk about this? You just kind of looked at me like
anything else I need to get out. Oh, one of the other highlights of my fandom was going to the Bengals-Dolphins game a few years back when there was like 12 field goals for the total score.
Sounds about right.
So it's like, what am I cheering for? What am I pulling for? Why am I the guy away from anyone else that's a fan that's holding – what am I holding on to? And it's like, here's what I would say is different. It's different.
Laces out, Dan.
So the most for me, I don't know why. I just don't feel like I identify as much with you about the Bengals because I feel like even though there was so much disappointment, it was so disappointing because you always had so much talent, especially like on the offensive side. Ooh. Your receiving core for like 20 years always had 2 or 3 elite.
Are you on crack? We had AJ Green.
Ocho Cinco is not even get talked about?
Well, but I mean, that again, one guy, that's not a receiving core.
Well, and Miami could have done with one receiver.
And Ocho Cinco was a crazy dude.
Yeah.
Full on crazy. I think he's a Hall of Fame receiver, but he'll never get in because he's a crazy dude.
I look at the Cleveland Browns fan base, who right now is in disarray because everybody told them they were going to the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah, also crazy people for the most part. I don't know too many sane Browns fans.
The thing I love about Browns fans is even though they expect the disappointment, they legitimately believe this next year's the year. They really believe it.
That's what I just said.
But they actually believe it.
Yes, that's what makes them crazy people.
Miami fans we don't expect it.
Same. Bengals fans don't either.
We expect nothing. And it's like, am I going to keep cheering for this? Like, I'm having a crisis about this.
Yeah.
I really think there's a good chance that the Dolphins jerseys get pushed off to one corner. And I don't know where I go. I mean, Super Bowl, I'm cheering for the Bengals all the way.
See how that feels. It's going to feel really good.
It's going to feel dirty because I haven't earned anything.
But it's going to feel good, and then next year you're going to be like, I'm in. Welcome to the jungle, baby.
Here's what I will tell you. I want hey, Stephen Ross, I want a refund for all the years of Sunday ticket I paid for because I can't get a freaking game in Ohio just to watch us lose. And then I still don't forgive you. But if I did switch fan bases, and I'm saying hiatus. I'm saying hiatus, which there's people out there like, oh, it's ride or die. Well, yeah, if you're not a Dolphins fan, you don't know what I'm feeling.
Well, and more importantly.
But I'm going local.
Okay,
it's either going to be Cleveland or Cincinnati.
Oh, you can't go Cleveland.
I could go Cleveland.
Why?
It's a lateral move. It's a lateral move.
Yeah, but why would you make a lateral move?
They're just a quarterback away.
Okay.
I actually think that.
See, I actually don't.
But here's the
think that.
problem. Like, I'm kind of hedging my bets here. Picking anything in the AFC right now, if I pick a new team, is gambling. Because it is the competition is going to be so brutal in the AFC.
Yeah.
This quarterback class. So the best analogy I have when I look at a sport, man, we're coming up on an hour, so we got to finish up soon. When you talk about the quarterback class, young quarterbacks right now, it reminds me, the best comparison I have is when that dream team era of NBA players was up and coming in like the late 80s going into the early 90s, and all of a sudden people realized this is a whole nother level of basketball. And I think what we're watching, that era of like Brady, Manning, Big Ben, Rodgers, like these quarterbacks that we watch are fading out, and we're watching this new group emerge who's super talented, very entertaining.
Yep.
And it's happening again.
Yeah. Well, and I think that there's going to be a lot of shakeup, and I think you're going to see some guys go up and down. I think there are guys that people have been really high on that are not going to be long-term. I don't think Lamar Jackson is a long-term guy. He's starting to get dinged up, and I don't know that his skill set will enable him to become a pocket passer. And that's not an insult. That's just everybody has a skill set, and some people's skill set isn't effective for a long career. Doesn't mean they were bad. Michael Vick's skill set, if he had come into the league 15 years later, he would have dominated it. He wouldn't have dominated it for 20 years. He would have dominated it for 5 or 6.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have been what he was at the time, which was an anomaly. But we've got some young guys, to what you just said, that are traditional, what you think of as traditional NFL quarterbacks who can still move a little bit. Yeah. Joe Burrow can still move a little bit. He's not going to Josh Allen, to me, is the new mold.
He's a monster.
Josh Allen, if you want to talk about who I think is going to take over the reins as being the poster boy in the NFL as far as quarterback play, that's the guy.
Yeah.
Josh Allen's a freaking monster.
I mean, just the top 4 I'm thinking of, Mahomes, Allen, you got Burrow, you got Herbert.
I mean, Rodgers still has a little bit left in the tank.
Which who knows what's going to happen there.
Yeah.
Then you go over to the NFC, and it's taking a little longer to count on your hands.
I mean, I still think Dak is a heck of a quarterback. I know that people are going to give him a hard time about the way the Cowboys season ended.
But see, like your first one that you think of, you're already having to like, hey, here's 2 or 3 reasons. AFC, you're not even having to like.
No, that's true. But if you go down think about the NFC. You got Dak, you got Russell Wilson, you got Aaron Rodgers. Although Aaron Rodgers is nearer to the end of his career, but he's still a freak show. He's probably going to win back-to-back MVPs. Okay, maybe that's it.
That's what I'm saying. Like it's interesting when you start looking at it, but that much young talent is emerging in the AFC. So whatever team I pick, I better be sure about it.
Yeah, I mean, the guy that I still think the jury is out on is Jalen Hurts. I don't know what Jalen Hurts is. I know he can run.
Is?
Well, I
don't want to get you started on
Listen, Minshew's going to start next year somewhere. He's getting a job somewhere, and he's going to do what he always does.
Send him up to Cleveland. Send him up to Cleveland.
Listen, if you put Gardner Minshew on that team,
that's a real Baker Mayfield.
That's an 11 win team.
Graker Mayfield this year was if you bought Baker Mayfield on Wish.
Well, I will say this though, to give a little bit of grace, he was hurt the entire year.
But here's the only thing I didn't like. Every other elite quarterback, which maybe it's a mold that needs to be broken, doesn't say every week, I played hurt, you guys.
Well, but here's
guys, torn labrum.
Yes, but here's
guys, bruised rib.
Do you know why?
Hey guys, I just want you to know. But bro, 4 interceptions. You got to sit out.
Well, but here's the problem, and this is where the issue comes in. And in Cleveland, I think they want Baker gone.
They don't like his attitude.
And any other quarterback who was playing through that, who would have been the first person at the podium to his defense?
Yeah.
His head coach.
You don't see any
You
of
know
that.
how many times Kevin Stefanski defended Baker Mayfield this year? Potato times. That's why Baker Mayfield felt like he had to defend himself.
Yeah.
He felt like nobody in that building had his back other than some of the other players, but the coaching staff certainly didn't have his back, which is shocking to me because he took him to the AFC Championship game last year.
I think he's
right before
that
the
much
AFC
of a
Championship
turd.
game.
I don't think he's respected. You talked about that with Tua.
Well, his teammates love him.
Do they?
Yeah. Go look at what his teammates have to say about him. Now, is he a little bit of a guy? He's not a Tom Brady guy in that he is intrinsically motivated. He needs pats on the back.
Yes.
He needs to be talked up. And that just may not be Stefanski's coaching style.
Maybe if we get Manziel back.
Oh, Jesus. Let's hope not. I will say, though, if the Browns go sign Gardner Minshew,
one thing's going to happen for sure. I'm going to be in orange next year. It's just a question if it's Miami, Cincinnati, or Cleveland.
well, it should be orange with some stripes.
Maybe a brown stripe?
No. Black tiger stripes.
Tiger stripes.
Yeah. Think about when you get to rock the old school helmet with the actual tiger on the side, or on one side and then it just says Bengals on the other side.
Yeah.
That's the Ken Anderson helmet.
Yeah.
I miss Ken Anderson. He's my favorite player ever.
What jersey would I get? I can't go old school. I got to just nothing but new guys.
Well, you got a couple of options. You can go Burrow, but that's what everybody does.
Fat guys should not wear wide receiver jerseys. That's just a rule I live by.
Well, if you're going to go that route, I'm not sure that any of the O linemen are worth buying. You could buy a Mixon jersey,
Burrow.
but he punches women in the face.
See,
You don't
now I'm
wanna
leaning
go-
towards Cleveland.
What about Uzama? You could go CJ Uzama.
Fresh off an injury? Come
Yeah,
on, bro.
But I mean, CJ Uzama. He's
Probably
a
get a
tight
good
end.
deal.
Yeah,
All
absolutely.
right, hey, we got to we're over an hour here. Fired up. There's a lot of pain that came out today. A little about cards, a lot about life.
Yeah. Card-wise, Super Bowl, 2 weeks. Everybody do me a favor. Ignore the Pro Bowl this week because it doesn't deserve to be watched or played.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Burrow, sell low-end stuff. Use it to buy high-end stuff. It's not coming down. Go Bengals. We're going to win this thing. Get a chip.
This has been the Ball Card Show on the Press Play Podcast Network. You want to do one more shot of that butter cake moonshine?
I do not.
All right, let's do it. Bye.
Bye.